Zara's back pressed against the cold steel of the kitchen counter, her breath coming in sharp gasps as Min Jun's hands cupped her face with a tenderness that terrified her more than any gun ever had. "Stop," she whispered, but she didn't mean it. His dark eyes searched hers, and for the first time in 3 years, she felt something crack inside the fortress she'd built around her heart. "I see you, Zara," he said softly in his accented English. "Not the queen. Not the boss. You." She grabbed his wrist, her grip iron-strong, the same hands that had pulled triggers now trembling. "You don't know what you're seeing. I've done things, Min Jun. I've been with 99 men trying to forget." He pressed his forehead to hers, cutting off her confession. "Then let me be the one who makes you remember how to feel again." Hey lovelies, welcome back to Afrosoul Diaries. Click that subscribe button now to be a part of this lovely community and enjoy top-notch storytelling. Drop a comment so we can bond better. Your support means a lot. Now, let's dive into today's story. 3 months earlier, Zara Williams sat in the back of her black Escalade, watching rain streak down the tinted windows like tears she'd forgotten how to cry. Her phone glowed with a message from Marcus, number 99. "Can't make it tonight. Something came up." She laughed bitterly. They always had excuses, but it didn't matter. None of them mattered. They were transactions, temporary distractions from the ghost of betrayal that haunted her every waking moment. 3 years ago, she'd been foolish enough to believe in love. 3 years ago, her fiancé Dante had whispered forever while planning to take everything her father had built, while warming another woman's bed. "Boss, where to?" Her driver, Marcus, not the same Marcus who'd just canceled, asked, his eyes finding hers in the rearview mirror. She should go home to her penthouse, pour expensive whiskey, and let the numbness take over like she did most nights. Instead, she heard herself say, "Drive. Anywhere." They ended up in a neighborhood she rarely visited, the kind where her money-laundering operations ran through small businesses, keeping them afloat while cleaning her cash. The rain had softened to a drizzle when she noticed the small restaurant, its warm lights spilling onto the wet pavement. Seoul Kitchen, the sign read in both English and Korean characters. "Wait here," she told her driver, stepping out into the October chill. The closed sign hung on the door, but she could see movement inside. She knocked, her Louboutin heels clicking against the concrete. A young man appeared, maybe 27 or 28, with black hair falling slightly into his eyes and an apron covered in what looked like sauce stains. He opened the door a crack. "I'm sorry, we're closed," he said, his Korean accent wrapping around the English words. Zara was used to getting what she wanted. She'd perfected the art of intimidation, seduction, manipulation. But standing there in her designer coat with rain-dampened hair, she felt suddenly exhausted. "Please," she said, and the words surprised her. She couldn't remember the last time she'd said please and meant it. Something in her voice must have reached him because his expression softened. "You look cold. Come in." The restaurant was small, maybe 15 tables, decorated simply with traditional Korean art on the walls. It smelled like ginger and garlic and something else, something that reminded her of comfort, though she couldn't place why. "I'm Min Jun," he said, gesturing to a table near the kitchen. "I can make you something, but I only have what I was preparing for tomorrow. Is that okay?" She nodded, watching as he disappeared into the kitchen. She should use this time to check her phone, respond to her lieutenants, review the latest shipment reports. Instead, she just sat, listening to the sound of knives on cutting boards, the sizzle of a pan, water running. Min Jun returned with a bowl of soup, steam rising from it in delicate spirals. "Samjitang," he said, setting it before her. "Ginseng chicken soup. My mother used to make it when I was sad." He paused. "You look sad." No one had said that to her in years. People called her powerful, dangerous, ruthless, feared. But sad? She looked down at the soup, whole young chicken in a clear broth with rice, jujubes, garlic, and ginseng root. "What makes you think I'm sad?" she asked, her voice carrying its usual edge. He sat across from her, uninvited, but somehow not unwelcome. "The same reason you knocked on a closed restaurant door in the rain instead of going somewhere warm. Sad people do things that don't make sense because nothing makes sense anyway." His honesty was disarming. She tasted the soup. The warmth spread through her, and to her absolute horror, she felt her eyes burn with tears she refused to let fall. "It's good," she managed. Food is love made visible, Min-jun said, watching her eat. That's what my mother always said. When I cook for someone, I'm giving them a piece of my heart. Zara almost laughed. Hearts were liabilities in her world. Hearts got you killed or betrayed. That's a dangerous philosophy, she said. He smiled, and it reached his eyes in a way that made her chest tight. Maybe, but what's life without a little danger? If he only knew. They talked while she ate, surface things at first. He told her about coming to America 5 years ago with dreams of opening his own restaurant, how he worked 3 jobs to send money back to his mother in Busan who was sick. She told him carefully edited versions of her life, nothing that would reveal who she really was. Just a businesswoman, she said. Import-export. It wasn't entirely a lie. Do you like what you do? He asked, and the question caught her off guard. No one had ever asked her that. They asked if the shipments arrived, if the money was clean, if the territories were secure. But I'm good at it, she said instead. That's not what I asked. His eyes held hers, and she looked away first, which never happened. No, she admitted quietly. I don't like it. But it's what I have. Min-jun stood, clearing her bowl. We always have choices, even when we think we don't. She thought about the 99 men, about the darkness she'd wrapped around herself like armor, about her father's empire that had become her prison. Some choices were made for us long before we knew we had a say, she said. He paused at the kitchen door. Then make new ones. She left that night with his words echoing in her head and something unfamiliar stirring in her chest. Over the next 2 weeks, she found herself returning to Seoul Kitchen. Always late, always when he was closing. He'd cook for her, simple dishes that tasted like care, and they'd talk. He made her laugh, which seemed impossible. She'd forgotten what genuine laughter felt like, the kind that wasn't laced with cruelty or mockery. Why do you keep coming back? Min-jun asked one night as he served her kimchi jjigae, the spicy stew warming her from the inside. She'd been asking herself the same question. The food, she said, but they both knew it was a lie. Just the food. His smile was gentle, teasing. She set down her spoon. You make me feel normal. Like I'm not, she caught herself. Like I'm just a person, not a position. He reached across the table, his hand covering hers. It was the first time he'd touched her beyond accidental brushes, and electricity shot through her. But it wasn't the heat of lust she'd experienced with her 99 distractions. This was different. Terrifying. You are just a person, Zara. Whatever else you are, whoever else you have to be, here you're just you. She should pull away. Getting close to someone, letting them in, it only led to devastation. But his hand was warm, and she was so tired of being cold. I should tell you something, she started, but her phone buzzed violently. Her second-in-command, Trey. She answered. What? Her voice shifted, becoming the blade her organization knew. We have a problem. It's about the restaurant situation, the ones we use for the operations. Her blood went cold. Which ones? She listened, and her world tilted. Seoul Kitchen was one of hers. Min-jun's restaurant was part of her money laundering network, had been for 2 years before he bought it from the previous owner. He was cooking in her crime. She ended the call, her hand sliding away from his. Zara? What's wrong? Min-jun asked, concern etching his features. She couldn't tell him. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I have to go. Emergency. She stood abruptly, throwing cash on the table. Too much. Always too much. Wait, he called as she headed for the door. Tomorrow? Will you come back tomorrow? She looked back at him, this beautiful, pure soul who fed her soup and saw her sadness, who had no idea he was entangled in her darkness. I don't know, she said honestly, and left before he could see her break. In the car, she made calls. Her financial manager confirmed it. Seoul Kitchen's previous owner had sold the place to Min-jun but kept the underground arrangement without his knowledge. Her money flowed through his accounts, cleaned and distributed, while he innocently cooked and dreamed. What do you want to do, boss? Trey asked. The smart move was to extract the operation, maybe shut him down if he'd seen too much, which he hadn't. The safe move was to disappear from his life. The move her heart screamed for was something she couldn't afford. Pull the operation. Quietly. He doesn't know anything, and I want to keep it that way. Route it through the dry cleaners on 5th. There was a pause. Boss, are you sure? That's prime location, and the dry cleaners are already at capacity. Her voice turned to ice. Did I ask for your opinion, Trey? No, boss. Consider it done. She hung up and closed her eyes. This was why she couldn't have good things. Everything she touched turned to ash or blood. She didn't go back to Soul Kitchen for a week. She tried to fall into old patterns, scrolling through contacts, looking for number 99 since Marcus had been a bust. She made it as far as calling someone named Xavier, got him to her penthouse, and the moment he touched her, she felt nothing but revulsion. Leave, she'd said. What? But I thought. Xavier had looked confused, then angry. Leave. Now. I'll have my driver take you. He'd called her a tease and worse, but she didn't care. She poured whiskey and stood at her floor-to-ceiling windows, looking at the city she controlled, feeling completely powerless. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Hello. Zara? It's Min Junai. I got your number from your credit card receipt. I hope that's not weird. You stopped coming and I was worried. His voice, concerned and warm, broke something in her. I'm fine, she lied. You don't sound fine. Talk to me. And she did. Standing there with the city lights below, she told him edited truths about feeling lost, about trying to fill voids with things that only made them bigger, about being afraid that she was too broken for anything good. She didn't mention the 99 men or the criminal empire, but the emotions were real, bleeding through the phone line. Where are you? Min Jun asked after she'd finished. Home. Let me cook for you. Tell me where, I'll bring food. She should say no. She'd pulled her operation from his restaurant to protect him, and now she was inviting him into her space? But loneliness was a sharper knife than any betrayal, and she was bleeding out. She gave him the address. He arrived an hour later, carrying bags of ingredients, his eyes widening as he took in her penthouse. You said import-export, he said slowly, looking at the obvious wealth surrounding them. I'm very good at my job, she said, defensive. He set the bags on her marble kitchen counter. I don't care about your money, Zara. I care that you've been hurting alone. And there it was again, that devastating kindness. He cooked in her kitchen, and she watched, perched on a bar stool with a wine glass she didn't drink from. My mother called today, he said as he chopped vegetables with practiced precision. The treatments aren't working. They want to try something experimental, but insurance won't cover it. His hands paused. I'm sorry, I shouldn't burden you with this. How much? Zara asked. She could write a check right now, solve his problem with money that was stained with crimes he couldn't imagine. $200,000. He laughed bitterly. I might as well say 2 million. I have maybe 15,000 saved. Her organization moved that much in a single hour. She could fix this. But how would she explain it? There are ways, she started. No, he said firmly, resuming his chopping. I know what you're thinking. I won't take your money. I'll figure it out. His pride was admirable and infuriating. Why not? I have it, you need it. He looked at her directly. Because anything worth having should be earned, not given. And because I don't want that between us. Between us? She echoed. What's between us, Min Jun? He set down the knife, wiping his hands on a towel, and moved around the counter until he stood before her. I don't know what to call it, but I think about you constantly. When I cook, I imagine you tasting it. When something funny happens, I want to tell you. When I close my eyes, I see your smile, the real one you try to hide. Her heart hammered. You don't know me. If you really knew me, then let me know you. All of you. She slid off the bar stool, closing the distance between them. You want to know me? I've slept with 99 men in the last 3 years. Strangers, acquaintances, anyone who could make me forget for a few hours that I'm empty inside. I was planning to make it 100, to prove to myself that my ex was right, that I'm just a cold bitch playing at power. Her confession was a weapon, designed to push him away. But Min Jun didn't flinch. Were you trying to feel nothing, or were you punishing yourself? He asked quietly. The question broke her. Both. Neither. I don't know anymore. Tears finally fell, 3 years' worth, streaming down her face without permission. Min Jun pulled her into his arms, and she collapsed into him, sobbing into his chest while he held her, one hand stroking her hair, murmuring words in Korean she didn't understand but felt in her soul. I've got you, he said in English. I've got you, and I'm not letting go. They ate the meal he prepared, japchae with glass noodles and vegetables, and she told him about Dante. How she'd loved him, trusted him, planned a future with him. How she'd walked in to surprise him on their anniversary and found him with her own cousin. How she'd later discovered he'd been planning to kill her and take over her father's organization. So I became what he always said I couldn't be. Harder than my father, more ruthless than any man in the game. And I made sure I'd never be weak for anyone again. Being vulnerable isn't weakness, Min-jun said. It's the bravest thing you can do. She wanted to believe him. They moved to her couch, talking until the sky lightened with dawn. At some point, she'd curled into his side, and it felt like safety, a concept she'd thought was a myth. Stay, she whispered as he started to leave. I have to open the restaurant in 3 hours, he said, but he was smiling. Then stay for 2 hours and 59 minutes. He stayed. They lay on her couch, her back to his chest, his arms around her, and for the first time in years, she slept without nightmares. When she woke, he was gone, but there was a note on her coffee table in slightly broken English. Thank you for trusting me with your heart's truth. You are not broken, just healing. The cracks are where the light gets in. MJ. After that night, everything shifted. He was her secret, her hidden piece of goodness in a world of darkness. She'd visit the restaurant, and sometimes he'd come to her place after closing. They'd cook together, talk, watch Korean dramas he'd try to explain while she pretended to pay attention instead of just watching him. They'd fallen asleep together countless times, always close, but never crossing that final line. He never pushed, and she was grateful. Sex she knew. This terrified her more. But the universe had a cruel sense of timing. 2 months into whatever they were becoming, Dante resurfaced. She was in her office, the legitimate front company she ran on the 10th floor of a downtown building, when Trey walked in looking grave. He's back. Dante. He hit one of our shipments at the port, took $3 million in product. Her blood turned to ice, then fire. Where is he? Wants to meet. Says he has a proposal. She laughed without humor. His proposals tend to involve betrayal. Hard pass. But Dante didn't wait for her acceptance. That night, as Min-jun cooked dinner in her penthouse, her phone buzzed with a photo that stopped her heart. Min-jun's mother, in her hospital bed in Busan, with a red laser dot on her forehead. The message was simple. Meet me or she's dead. Alone. Tonight. I'll send the address. Before you continue watching, if you're loving this intense romance, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you never miss our stories. Drop a comment telling me whose side you're on, Team Min-jun or Team Dante. And show some love with a like. Now, let's get back to Zara's impossible choice. Her hands shook as she stared at the phone. Min-jun noticed immediately. What's wrong? Everything. Her past was reaching for her present, and the one person who'd made her feel human was about to become collateral damage. I need to handle some business, she said, her voice hollow. Tonight? He set down the spoon, reading her expression. Zara, you're scaring me. What's happening? She couldn't tell him. If she told him about the threat to his mother, he'd insist on coming, and Dante would kill him just to make a point. If she told him who she really was, all of it, he'd look at her differently. The woman who'd ordered executions, moved drugs and weapons, built an empire on blood and fear. Trust me, she said, grabbing her coat and phone. I'll explain everything, but I need to go. Now. Stay here, don't leave, please. She kissed his cheek, quick and desperate, and was gone before he could protest. In the car, she made rapid-fire calls. Trey, I need eyes on Busan General Hospital, room 304, patient Kim Seo-yeon. Protection detail, best we have, but invisible. If anything happens to that woman, I'll kill everyone involved personally. Boss, what's going on? Dante has leverage. I'm meeting him, but this is insurance. The address was an abandoned warehouse in the industrial district because villains lacked originality. She went alone as demanded, 2 guns hidden on her body, a knife strapped to her thigh. Dante stood in the center of the empty space, looking exactly as she remembered. Handsome in a dangerous way, smile like a shark, eyes that had once made her feel desired, but now just looked empty. Zara, you look good. Power suits you. What do you want, Dante? She kept her distance, calculating exits, angles, vulnerabilities. What I've always wanted. The Empire. Your father's legacy. But I'm willing to share this time. 50-50, Like we could have had before you got all self-righteous about loyalty. She laughed. You mean before I caught you planning my murder? Yeah, that did put a damper on the relationship. He circled her slowly. You've gotten harder. I like it. We could be unstoppable together, Z, think about it. Not interested. Let the woman go. She's got nothing to do with this. Dante's smile widened. But she has everything to do with this. She's the mother of that chef you've been playing house with. What was his name? Minjun? Cute kid. Good cook. I had his bibimbap yesterday. Stellar. Rage, pure and molten, flooded her. If you touch him, you'll what? Kill me? You had 3 years to do that and never pulled the trigger. You're soft, Sarah. That's always been your weakness. He was wrong. She'd become many things, but soft wasn't one of them. She'd spared him because killing your ex-fiancé brought heat she didn't need, and he'd left the country. Alive, he was a problem solved. Back, he was a problem that needed permanent solving. Here's my counteroffer, she said, her voice dropping to the deadly calm that made her lieutenants nervous. You leave. Tonight. Disappear to whatever hole you crawled from. The woman stays safe, Minjun stays safe, and I let you live. Dante pulled a gun, not pointing it at her, just holding it casually. And if I refuse? Then I stop being soft. She moved faster than he expected, 3 years of training and street fights making her lethal. She kicked the gun from his hand, pulled her own, and had it pressed under his chin before he could blink. You always underestimated me. That's why you lost. She could pull the trigger. Should pull it. End this threat permanently. But Minjun's words echoed. We always have choices. She could choose to be the monster Dante thought she was, or something different. She pistol-whipped him instead, hard enough to drop him. Her backup team, because she wasn't actually stupid enough to come alone without contingencies, flooded in on her signal. Take him to the port. Put him on a cargo ship heading anywhere that isn't here. Make it clear if he returns, he's dead. She made another call. How's the patient in Busan? Safe, boss. 3 of our best are on her floor, disguised as hospital staff. No one's getting close. Relief weakened her knees. She'd protected him. Minjun would never know how close his world came to shattering. Except when she returned to her penthouse, he was exactly where she'd left him, sitting on her couch, and he wasn't alone. Trey sat across from him, and the look on Minjun's face told her everything. He knew. I can explain, she started, but Minjun stood, his expression a mixture of shock, hurt, and confusion. Trey told me everything. Who you are. What you do. His voice shook. Is it true? She wanted to lie, but she was exhausted from lies. Yes. The word hung between them like a guillotine. The 99 men, was that true too? He asked, and she nodded. Was I supposed to be number 100? Some kind of conquest. The pain in his voice shredded her. No. God, no. You were the first real thing I'd felt in years. You were never part of the count. You were what? Your redemption? Your walk on the good side before you went back to being a criminal. His anger was justified, and it hurt more than any of Dante's betrayals. You're right to be angry, she said quietly. I should have told you. But I was selfish. When I was with you, I got to pretend I was someone else. Someone worthy of the way you looked at me. Trey stood uncomfortable. I'll wait in the car, boss. He left them in loaded silence. Minjun paced, running hands through his hair. I don't even know what to think. You've killed people. Yes. Sold drugs. Yes. Run guns, laundered money, all of it? Yes. He stopped pacing, looking at her directly. Why? And there was the question she'd never really answered for herself. Because my father built this empire and died protecting it. Because when he was murdered, I was 19 and terrified, and the only way to survive was to become scarier than the people who wanted me dead. Because Dante made me believe I was weak, and I needed to prove I wasn't. Because somewhere along the way, I forgot I had a choice to be anything else. And now? Minjun asked. Do you still want this life? She thought about the late-night calls, the constant looking over her shoulder, the blood on her hands that never quite washed clean. No, she admitted. But I don't know how to get out. The moment you show weakness in this world, someone takes everything. He crossed the room, standing close but not touching. Earlier tonight, where did you go? She told him about Dante, the threat to his mother, all of it. I have protection on her, best in the business. She's safe. She'll stay safe. His eyes widened. My mother? He threatened my mother. The reality was crashing over him. This is my life, Minjun. This is what being close to me means. Threats, danger, darkness. You deserve better than this. Better than me. Don't tell me what I deserve, he said firmly. You just protected my mother, risked yourself, and you think you're not worthy? He cupped her face, his touch gentle despite everything. I'm not saying this doesn't scare me. It does. You terrify me. But not because of what you've done. Because of how much I feel for you. Her breath caught. Minjun, I'm not done. You've made terrible choices. You've hurt people. But you also pulled illegal operations from my restaurant to protect me. You're paying for my mother's treatment, aren't you? Don't deny it. The hospital called yesterday about a mysterious benefactor covering everything. She'd funneled the money through 3 shell companies, so he couldn't trace it back. You said you wouldn't accept my money. I wouldn't. But you gave it anyway, not to buy me, but because you couldn't stand my mother suffering. That's who you are under all the armor. His thumb brushed her cheek. I see you, Zara. The broken parts and the beautiful parts. And I'm not running. You should, she whispered. Everyone else has. Then I'm not everyone else. He kissed her, and it wasn't like the countless kisses she'd experienced in her 99 encounters. This was tender and fierce, tasting like forgiveness and promise. She kissed him back, pouring 3 years of loneliness, weeks of yearning, and the terrifying hope that maybe she could have him into it. They broke apart, breathing hard. I can't promise I'll be perfect, she said. I have enemies, complications, a whole organization that depends on me. I'm not asking for perfect. I'm asking for honest. No more secrets. She nodded. No more secrets. It was a vow she'd try to keep, even knowing her world made that nearly impossible. But for him, she'd try. The next weeks were a crash course in Zara's reality for Minjun. He met her crew, awkward introductions where hardened criminals tried to figure out how to interact with the boss's boyfriend. Because that's what he was now, though the label felt too simple for what they'd become. He saw her run operations, always legal ones, though she was honest about the illegal side. I'm working on transitioning out, she told him. It'll take time, maybe years, but I'm building legitimate businesses to replace the dirty money. It wasn't easy. Trey questioned her decisions, thought she was going soft. 2 of her lieutenants tried to challenge her leadership. She'd handled it the way she had to, with strength, making examples that kept the peace, but made Minjun flinch. I'm sorry you had to see that, she'd said after a particularly brutal negotiation that ended with her threatening to bury a rival alive. This is part of it. Part of me. I know, he'd said, though his hands shook slightly. I'm learning. He was trying, and she loved him for it. Love. When had that happened? Maybe the first night when he'd fed her soup and seen her sadness. Maybe when he'd held her while she cried. Maybe in 1,000 small moments that had stitched themselves into her guarded heart. She hadn't said it yet. The words felt too big, too vulnerable. But then came the night that changed everything. They were at his apartment, the small studio above a bodega that he'd refused to leave despite her offers of better. He was cooking, as always, this time teaching her how to make kimchi. You have to massage the cabbage, he instructed, laughing as she aggressively squeezed the vegetable. Gently, like you're trying to coax out its best flavor. I don't do gentle, she said, but softened her touch, following his hands with hers. You do with me, he countered, and it was true. With him, she learned softness again. They finished the kimchi, and he poured soju into small glasses. To new beginnings, he toasted. They drank, and she felt the warmth spread through her. Minjun, I need to tell you something. That sounds ominous, he teased, but his eyes were serious. I love you. The words came out less smoothly than she'd planned. I don't know when it happened, and I'm terrible at this, and I'll probably mess it up, but I love you. You make me want to be better. You make me believe I can be. His smile was radiant. I love you too. I have for weeks, but was waiting for you to catch up. He kissed her, and it deepened quickly, all the tension and waiting and need flowing between them. Stay with me tonight, he murmured against her lips. Not like before. Really stay. She knew what he was asking. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. They made love slowly, tenderly, and it was nothing like the 99 times before. This was connection, intimacy, 2 people learning each other's bodies and hearts simultaneously. Afterward, Wrapped in his arms in his small bed, she felt something she'd never expected to feel again. Peace. You're crying, Min-jun whispered, wiping tears from her face. Happy tears, she managed. I didn't know those existed. They do. And you deserve all of them. They fell asleep tangled together, and when morning came, she woke before him, watching him sleep. His face was peaceful, beautiful in the soft light. She'd kill for him. Die for him. But more importantly, she'd live for him. Really live, not just survive. Her phone buzzed. Trey, we have a situation. It's about Dante. Her blood chilled. What situation? He's dead. Found in Manila. Looks like a hit professional. She should feel relieved. The threat was gone. But something felt wrong. Who ordered it? No idea. It wasn't us. That was the problem. Someone had killed Dante and she didn't know who. That meant unknown players were making moves in her world, and that was dangerous. She extracted herself from Min-jun's arms, stepping into his tiny bathroom to continue the call. Find out everything. Who, why, when. I want answers by tonight. She hung up and found Min-jun awake, watching her from the bed. Work? He asked. Always, she said, sliding back under the covers. But right now, I'm choosing you. It was a small choice, staying in bed for another hour instead of running to handle business, but it felt monumental. Later, as they ate breakfast, he made her Korean-style eggs and rice. He asked about her future. If you could do anything, be anyone, what would you choose? She'd never let herself imagine it. Dreaming was dangerous when you were fighting to survive. Maybe something quiet. A bookstore or a coffee shop. Somewhere I could talk to people who don't want anything from me but conversation. You'd be good at that, he said thoughtfully. You listen more than people realize. What about you? She asked. Still the restaurant? Always. But bigger dreams now. Maybe a place that serves Korean soul food fusion. Honor both sides of who we are. He'd said we, and she felt it in her chest. They were becoming a we, building toward a future. It felt fragile and precious and terrifying. Her phone rang again. She almost ignored it, but saw it was Trey. What? Boss, you need to see this. I'm sending a video. The video showed Dante's murder, grainy security footage from Manila. But what froze her blood was the killer's face, caught for just a second. Her cousin. The same one who'd slept with Dante. She was alive. Zara had thought she'd fled to Europe, and apparently, she was making power moves. Find her, Zara ordered. I want to know every place she's been, everyone she's talked to, and I want her brought to me. This was a declaration of war. Min-jun saw her expression change, the hardness sliding back into place. What happened? She showed him the video, explained the history. She's coming for what I have. The organization, the power. She probably killed Dante because he was a loose end. What are you going to do? His voice was careful, and she knew he was afraid of her answer. The old Zara would have struck fast and brutal, eliminated the threat with maximum violence. I'm going to end this, she said. Permanently. But on my terms. Over the next week, she planned carefully. Her cousin, Jasmine, had been building alliances, turning some of Zara's own people. The betrayal stung, but she'd learned to use pain as fuel. She set a meeting, neutral ground, with terms that both sides could accept. The abandoned warehouse again, because apparently that's where all dramatic confrontations happened. Jasmine showed up with her own crew, looking confident. Cousin, she drawled. Looking powerful as ever. But power's only good if you can keep it. And do you think you can take it? Zara asked, her voice calm. She'd positioned her people strategically, and Min-jun, against her protests, was watching from a safe distance with Trey. He'd insisted on being there, said he needed to see all of her, even this part. I know I can. You've gone soft, Z. Word is you're in love, playing house with some chef. That's not the boss this organization needs. Jasmine's smile was cruel. They need someone hungry, ruthless. Someone like me. Zara laughed, and it wasn't kind. You think love makes me weak? It makes me focused. Because now I have something worth building a legitimate future for. Something worth protecting. Touching speech. Still gonna take what's mine. Jasmine pulled a gun, and in the same instant, Zara's crew pulled theirs, a dozen weapons trained on Jasmine's people. Here's what's going to happen, Zara said, her voice carrying authority that brooked no argument. You're going to leave. Take your little crew and go. I'm dissolving the illegal operations anyway, transitioning everything legitimate. There won't be an empire to fight over. You're lying. But Jasmine looked uncertain. I'm not. Ask anyone in my organization. I've been shutting it down for weeks, moving money into legal ventures. In 6 months, there won't be anything left but businesses that don't require blood to run. It was true. She'd been working on it since Min-jun came into her life, seeing a way out for the first time. You can have the scraps of the old empire, or you can walk away and build something that won't get you killed or imprisoned. Your choice. Jasmine lowered her gun, clearly not expecting this. Why? Because I'm choosing a different life. One where I don't have to look over my shoulder constantly. Where the man I love doesn't have to be afraid every time I walk out the door. She looked toward where Min-jun watched, hidden in shadows. I'm choosing love over power. Turns out, it's the braver choice. The standoff dissolved, Jasmine and her crew leaving with promises to stay in their lane while Zara finished her transition. It wasn't a perfect resolution, threats still lurked, but it was a start. Min-jun emerged from his hiding spot, crossing the warehouse to her. You meant all that? You're really getting out. I'm trying, she said. It won't be overnight, and there'll be complications, but yes. I want out. I want a life with you that doesn't involve guns and threats. He kissed her there in that warehouse that smelled like oil and old violence, and it tasted like a future. I'm proud of you, he whispered. That took more strength than any fight. They went back to her penthouse, and she started making calls, setting in motion the final steps of her exit plan. It would take months, maybe a year, but she was dismantling her father's empire piece by piece, keeping only the legitimate businesses, selling or shutting down the rest. 6 months later, Zara stood in a new space, empty and full of potential. This is perfect, Min-jun said, walking through what would become their restaurant. Korean soul food fusion, just like he'd dreamed. She'd invested her clean money into it, a partnership in every sense. Soul meets soul, she read from the proposed sign design. You like it? I love it. They'd come so far from that rainy night when she'd knocked on his door, lost and looking for anything to fill the void. He'd filled it with soup and kindness and love that demanded she be better. She'd finally told him the full count, all 99 men who'd meant nothing, and how he'd never been part of that number. You were the first of one, she'd said. The only one who mattered. The restaurant opened 3 months later to incredible reviews. Zara had stepped away from her old life, keeping only a consulting role in her legitimate businesses, letting others run the day-to-day. Some nights, she'd waitress in their restaurant, and it felt surreal and wonderful to serve food instead of fear. Min-jun's mother came to visit, fully recovered, and cried happy tears while her son cooked and the woman he loved made customers smile. One night, after closing, as they sat in their restaurant drinking wine and talking about expanding to a second location, Min-jun took her hand. I have something to ask you. He pulled out a small box, and Zara's heart stopped. I know you were engaged before, and it ended badly. I know you have trust issues and walls and scars. But I also know you're the bravest, strongest, most incredible woman I've ever met. Zara Williams, will you marry me? She thought about the woman she'd been, sleeping with 99 men to prove she couldn't be hurt again, building walls so high nothing could penetrate. And she thought about who she'd become, someone who'd learned that vulnerability was strength, that love was worth the risk. Yes, she said, tears streaming down her face. Yes, I'll marry you. He slipped the ring on her finger, simple and beautiful, and kissed her. You know, she said when they broke apart, you were supposed to be number 100 in a very different way. Thank God you refused to be a number at all. Best decision I ever made, he agreed. Well, second best. The first was opening the door that rainy night. They made love in the restaurant after closing, christening their new beginning with passion and promise. Later, wrapped in each other on the couch they'd brought in for late nights, Zara thought about how far she'd come. From a broken woman trying to feel nothing, to someone who felt everything and wasn't afraid of it anymore. Min-jun had touched her in ways 99 men couldn't, not with his hands, but with his heart. What are you thinking? He murmured, half asleep. That I'm glad Marcus canceled that night 3 months ago. Glad I knocked on a closed door. Glad you saw me when I couldn't see myself. I'll always see you, he promised. Every version, every piece. And I'll love all of them. It was a promise she believed, finally trusting in love again after years of running from it. If you've made it this far in Zara and Minjun's journey, I need you to do something for me. Hit that like button if this story touched your heart, subscribe so you never miss our emotional romances, and comment below telling me what you think happens next. Does their restaurant become a chain? Do they have babies? Do elements from Zara's past come back? Let me know your thoughts. Your engagement helps us bring more stories like this, so show some love. And remember, sometimes the person who heals us is the one we least expect, who sees us when we're trying hardest to hide. Until next time, keep believing in love that transforms.